During the War of the Ring, Sauron had attained almost overwhelming power. Not only did he rule over Mordor, but also over the lands of Harad in the south, Rhûn in the east, and even parts of western Middle-earth were under his influence. Thus, Sauron was able to raise mighty hordes for war, consisting of orcs, fallen men, and monstrous creatures bred for battle. So the Dark Lord planned to overwhelm the free peoples of Middle-earth and seize power once and for all. But there was one thing he hadn't taken into account: the legendary and almost forgotten Oathbreakers, the Dead Men of Dunharrow. Undead human warriors that we see almost kill Aragorn, and who brought fear and terror to anyone who faced them. Nothing and nobody, it seemed, could oppose them, and in the movies even the dreaded oliphants were brought down mercilessly by them. So, why did Aragorn dismiss the Oathbreakers after the Battle of Minas Tirith? Why not keep this invincible army for his final battle with Sauron himself? In order to answer this question, we must first clarify who exactly the Oathbreakers actually are. Thousands of years ago they had been men, the hillmen who inhabited the valleys of the Eret Nimrais, the White Mountains, and were very closely related to the Dunlandings, who would later aid Saruman in his war against Rohan. In the Second Age, those hillmen swore allegiance to Sauron, worshipped him as their god, and built gigantic subterranean temples to practice their dark cults. However, when Sauron lost his power in Middle-earth, and the kingdom of Gondor was established on either side of the White Mountains, the Hillman king forsook his oaths to evil and swore allegiance to Isildur, then regent of Gondor, to aid him in battle. But an oath broken once was a sure sign of his new oath's worth. For when some time later Isildur called them to arms, they were afraid and refused any assistance. Too great was their fear of Sauron, their former master, to take the field against him. They fled from the wrath of Isildur into the mountains and hid in their secret places, and Isildur cursed them never to rest until they fulfilled their oath. This curse would be all too real, and it became their undoing. For soon the accursed mountain people disappeared. All contact with the outside world broke off, their people perished, and their caves were abandoned, at least by all living beings. For the dead continue to roam there. When humans die in Arda, only their physical bodies perish. Their souls, however, enter the halls of Mandos, the judge of the Valar, and from there they leave the world forever. With the Oathbreakers, however, it was different. Though their bodies died too, their incorporeal souls must dwell in Middle-earth, held there by the will of the creator Ilúvatar himself, whose power was invoked by Isildur in the oath and curse. For many centuries the restless dead lingered in their tormented, pitiful existence, until finally Aragorn took the paths of the dead and gave them the chance to fulfill their oaths. With the help of the Dead Men of Dunharrow, Aragorn freed the coastal cities of Gondor from the corsairs of Umbar. However, unlike what is shown in the movies, the ghostly army did not reach Minas Tirith and cleanse the city of the armies of Mordor. For after the main fleet of corsairs had been defeated and captured at the port city of Pelargir, Aragorn saw the oath of the undead soldiers as fulfilled. He let them go and finally find peace. But why did he do that? Why not let them fight Sauron's hordes when they were so effective against the corsairs of Umbar? Well, in the books, the Oathbreakers were not nearly as powerful as in the movies. Legolas describes the events at Pelargir as follows. And suddenly the shadow host that had hung back at the last came up like a great tide, sweeping all away before it. Faint cries I heard, and dim horns blowing, and a murmur as of countless far voices. It was like the echo of some forgotten battle in the dark years long ago. Pale swords were drawn, but I know not whether their blades would still bite, for the dead needed no longer any weapon but fear. None would withstand them. To every ship they came that was drawn up, and they passed over the water to those that were anchored, and all the mariners were filled with a madness of terror, and leaped overboard, save the slaves chained to the oars. In the book The Nature of Middle-earth, Legolas' suspicions are once again confirmed. They were truly unable to fight and barely able to physically harm their foes, as the Oathbreakers were nothing more than phantoms. They were disembodied souls that projected an image of their once existent bodies, and thus appeared to the living as ghostly, blurry shapes. These phantoms existed not in the world of the living, but in the shadow realm, and therefore could not interact with physical matter or living beings. So their only weapon was the merciless fear they instilled in all living beings around them, even the allied humans of Gondor and Rhûn. A fear which only the mightiest and noblest of humans, such as Aragorn, Imrahil of Dol Amroth, and Faramir, could withstand. And that fear, which was so effective against lesser men and orcs, would have done little against Sauron's main hordes. For the orcs, trolls, and humans and other creatures in his ranks were under his evil will, or that of the Witch King, and this drove them on, taking their fear and caution and turning them into baseless, brutal beasts. So Sauron's troops at the Black Gate or at Minas Tirith would probably have simply ignored the Oathbreakers and turned on the armies of the West. Only after Sauron had sensed Frodo putting on the One Ring inside Mount Doom, and thus bringing the fate of the Dark Lord to the very edge of his doom, did he tear his will away from his minions. Deprived of the presence of their god, they were unable even to face the forces of Gondor and Rhûn. They fell into despair, slew themselves in fear and confusion, or were slain by the armies of the West. And so, in that battle, victory in the War of the Ring could finally be achieved, with the Oathbreakers having played their part. Thus we conclude this chapter and this video. Did this knowledge surprise you? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed it and would like to learn more of the inner workings of Arda, be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified of the next chapter in the Mysteries of Westerners. This has been Irgicor Kuruvane, and I wish you all Namarie Meldonyar.